We're moving on to the pass catchers, as today I will give you my official top 10 receivers and tight end list. As always, get in the comment section below and let me know your favorite players at each of these positions. Before we dive into the wide receivers, this is your reminder. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 150 subscribers on this channel before the NFL draft. We can't get there, of course, without you guys. So if you enjoy, consider supporting us down below. But here we go. Some honorable mentions. Really, from 9 to 15, I would like to say they are interchangeable based on what offense they could potentially fit in, based on what you prefer in a wide receiver. But we have guys like Aaron Anderson. He's only like 5'8" or 5'9", but he is a demon. Super fast, super agile, but he can get up there and surprise you as far as some jump ball situations. Denzel Boston. He, of course, struggles to get off the line. His lack of separation ability in an offense where he wasn't asked to do a whole lot is really concerning, and I want to see if that can translate to the next level. I'm not sold that it can. At 11 is Antonio Williams. When you talk about a yak machine, this is your RPO guy. This is the guy that you could throw a bubble route or a quick slant to, and he can get you more than you projected to get, right? So Antonio Williams, get him the ball, he can make magic happen. Eric McAllister, not a lot of people talk about him, but this is strictly an upside play. As at number 12 on my list, at 6'3", he has good size to him, good frame. I think natural receiving ability in contested situations, but overall, a lot of refining to do, and we'll have to see if that can translate. Ted Hurst at 13. I know he's a fan favorite at this point in the offseason. For me, I can't get there just yet. I want to see if he can translate to the NFL level. But that is 9 through 13. We have guys like Zachariah Branch in this mix as well. A lot of guys. Dane Key out of Nebraska. Deion Burks out of Oklahoma. A lot of guys can be in this conversation, but I have a solidified top 8, and let's dive into it. At number 8, we have Elijah Surratt out of the reigning national champion Indiana Hoosiers. At 6'2", 210, this was their number 1 guy. I think he has elite hands. I think he's solid all around. And tell me if I'm crazy, but he reminds me of Jauan Jennings top to bottom, except this time Surratt is a lot more productive. 44 touchdowns over a 4-year college career. This is your back shoulder fade kind of a guy in any offense. And I believe he's so solid and he has such a safe floor that any team can draft him and he can produce from day number 1. So Elijah Surratt is number 8 on my wide receiver board. But hey, it's just because his upside is not as high as everyone above him. Omar Cooper Jr., his teammate, is one of those guys. At 6'4", 200, I know I'm throwing out some comparisons here, but he reminds me of a Jarvis Landry kind of a player. He had 20 touchdowns since the 2024 season, but he reminds me of Jarvis Landry because he is tough, he's a willing blocker, he's a tone setter in a wide receiver room, and he has great hands. Right, this is the guy that has that yards after catch ability. Like I mentioned, a willing blocker, and that's going to get him drafted a lot higher than I think most of us would project. But Omar Cooper has that dog in him, and I wouldn't be mad if my Cleveland Browns were to draft him at, let's say, pick 24. But he is at number 7. At number 6, we have Chase Roberts, and I know what you're going to say. Oh, and who is this for 1? And for 2, are you smoking something? The answer is no to the second one. But for the first one, look, I advise you before the draft season is to officially be here, please do your due diligence. Watch this guy, watch tape or highlights, whatever you can get your hands on. At 6'4", 210, I really think that the safest floor in this class, as far as the not top guys, might be Chase Roberts. He has great size, like I mentioned. He is one of the best route runners I've ever seen. I think he is in that same echelon of a JSN. And he's doing this not being as quick as those guys. So to be 6'4", elite separator, a guy that could be a true safety blanket at the next level, but he also has the production to match with at least 50 or more receptions on a good offense over the last 2 seasons. So again, he's not the greatest athlete. He's not going to be as twitchy as the JSN, but as far as having that separation ability, I don't see why he can't translate as a late round gem to any offense as long as he's given the opportunity. So maybe I'm just way too high on him, but I have him at number 6 on my wide receiver board. I think he has one of the safer floors as far as this range of wide receiver. Moving into the top five, we will kick it off with Germie Bernard out of Alabama at 6'1", 205. He has great speed and the yards after catch ability to be so dynamic in any offense at the NFL level. But again, his production matches 65 receptions for Ty Simpson, as well as 9 touchdowns. His versatility to line up anywhere, but also his dominance on the field. Wouldn't shock me if he were to sneak into the tail end of the first round for an NFL offense to take a shot on him to be very productive from day number 1. So Bernard at number 5. Again, I'm excited to see where he gets drafted. Wouldn't be shocked if it's the late first. And number 4, I've come around to KC Recepcion. Of course, my previous early wide receiver rankings video, he was a tad bit lower, but now I understand. I've watched more tape, and he is in my top 4. As at 6 foot 195, he's just electric. That is the easiest way to explain him. Elite speed, reliable hands, a guy that had 1,000 yards last season on 60 receptions, as well as almost double-digit touchdowns. He's a true gadget for any NFL offense at the next level, and I think any offensive coordinator is going to love to have him based on the versatility that he can bring to an offense. So I've come around to it. I've heard you guys in the comment section. KC Recepcion not only has a great nickname, but he is a top 4 receiver on my board. At number 3, we have Carnell Tate. I think it goes without saying that depending on what you prefer in a wide receiver, if you prefer durability, you prefer just strictly upside, or you prefer a certain archetype, you can make an argument for any of these top 3 wide receivers to be number 1. For me, Carnell Tate is at number 3. I think he's good to great at everything. I think he is the true safest wide receiver in this class. And if you're drafting a guy in the top 10, Carnell Tate probably should be that guy, even though he's not number 1 on my board. He's great hands, great ball skills. At 6'3", he is an underrated route runner, and he has 2 years of great production on a top-level offense across all of college football. So it is hard to find any flaws in Carnell Tate, and there's a good reason, and all of those reasons kind of compile as to why he's usually a number 1 or number 2 on most big boards. However, for me, I see that it factor in the top 2 guys. Is that the right train of thought? Probably not. But Makai Lemon for me at 5'11", 195 is my number 2 wide receiver. I think he is your Amon-Ra. I think he is your Tyler Lockett mold of guys that could be true slot receivers, and they could be in the league for a very long time because they are great separators, but they have deceptive speed and the production to match. Makai Lemon had 80 receptions for 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns for the Trojans last season. Outside of his lack of outside versatility and his smaller frame, I think he is also one of the safer wide receivers in this year's class, and I have him at number 2. But if you're looking strictly for upside, that leads us to number 1 with Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State at 6'2", 200 pounds. It goes without saying, great size. But I think he has the best hands out of any wide receiver prospect that we have seen since Marvin Harrison Jr. Huge catch radius, but again, he can make a lot of spectacular catches, a lot of contested catches, but again, he also keeps it simple, and he doesn't have a lot of drops, which is key for receivers that you could potentially draft as soon as number 5 in this year's class. But good to great speed, good to great route runner, 18 touchdowns over the last 2 years in an okay offense, far from elite there at Arizona State. It goes without saying, I think as far as a talent perspective, he's top 5 on my entire big board. Now, is he going to get drafted there? No. I think with his medical concerns being there, I think with his lack of ability to stay on the field for entire seasons, he's probably going to get drafted as the 2nd wide receiver off the board in this year's class. However, the talent screams number 1, and the talent screams he's top 5 on my entire big board. So to recap, we have Jordan Tyson, Makai Lemon, Carnell Tate, KC Recepcion. Of course, that's not his true name, but that's what I'm going to call him. And Germie Bernard at number 5. Number 6 through 10, we've already went through. So that is my wide receiver list. Again, there's a lot of honorable mentions. But let's go into the tight end list. Moving over to the tight end list, I think this class is underrated if you were not necessarily looking for this top echelon guy. But I think there's 4 to 5, maybe even 6 guys that could be starters at the NFL level for multiple years. and we'll get to that when we get to that. But as far as the honorable mentions go, we have guys like Jaren Kanak, who have cooled off a lot on as he comes in at undersized at 6'2", but after diving more into his tape, there's a lot of questions, and I'm wondering if he's going to be drafted to be anything more than maybe an H-back, a guy that can just kind of be like a fullback at the next level, and I'll leave it at that. Eli Raridon at 13, potentially the best blocker in the class, underrated, safe prospect with very good hands. But again, the upside is not there, and as far as being an athlete, he's far from it. At number 12 is Tanner Koziol at 6'7". If you want that Mo Alley Cox build, this is your guy for the red zone. And at number 11 is Dalen Bentley, who was very close. And honestly, in his defense, I've done the least amount of tape work on Dalen Bentley compared to the rest of today's list. But as far as what I've seen, he's very solid, very safe prospect, and he should be a day 3 selection. But as far as the upside goes, I think I would take everybody above him. The first of those guys is Sam Roush out of Stanford at 6'6", 265. He comes in as probably the best blocker in this year's class. If not, he is top 2 there next to Eli Raridon. He's very smart in space. He's a quarterback's best friend when it comes to that regard. He has great size, like I mentioned, and he reminds me of a Hunter Henry, where he is very solid in every department, but he's not elite at anything outside of blocking. So for Sam Roush, I love him in that regard, and don't be shocked if he gets drafted a lot higher than what people are saying based on his willingness and dominance as a run blocker, and that will easily translate to the next level. Oscar Delp at 6'5", 245. I understand the cool-off on this prospect as he has had another disappointing statistical year in a Georgia Bulldogs offense. In his defense, different quarterback, a little bit of a different role. Regardless, we are still waiting on that statistical breakthrough because the talent is there. He has deceptive speed, he's very smart in space, and he is a good blocker. But his lack of production will make you question what is his true draft cost? Where should we draft a player like this that we don't know if we can count on for a heavy workload at this position, especially given his receiving skill set? Regardless, very solid all around. I have him at number 9 based on the potential is there. At number 8, Justin Jolie. And if you want to talk about upside, perhaps he is on the top of this year's class. At 6'4", 240, a bit lighter than you would like at the tight end position, but he is a yak machine. That paired with being a 3-year starter, having a 96% contested catch rate this past season, and a low drop rate, he is an absolute insane receiving threat. And, given his versatility as far as playing a little bit of inline, you want to see him add a little bit more weight and get a little bit more play strength to him, but also having the ability to step in a slot or being an outside threat. He will be a dream for an offensive coordinator. Number 7, we have Jack Endries at 6'5", 245. I'm a lot higher on him than I was earlier in the offseason because he does have excellent hands, in my opinion. He's very smart in space. If you can't tell, I think that's very important for a tight end, and he has deceptive speed. But just like others, his lack of elite production makes you question where you want to draft this guy, but he also is not the greatest blocker. Regardless, I think he's very solid all around, and as far as him compared to the guys drafted below him, at least as far as on my list, I would take a shot on Jack Endries before those guys. Let's not forget, he had a lot of good years at Cal there with Fernando Mendoza. Eli Stowers at 6'4", 240. This one might ruffle some feathers, but I will give him his flowers. He's very explosive, great ball skills, huge catch radius, as well as a lot of versatility, and he's good with the ball in his hands after the catch. However, he does have a fair amount of drop concerns there in the last 2 years for Vanderbilt. A lot of inline concerns as far as his weight, his thinner frame. Can he hold up as a blocker at the next level? I guess this is just the modern age of tight ends, where these guys are not going to be asked to be 260, blocking each and every play like a Travis Kelce or a George Kittle. But as far as his versatility, as far as his upside, it is definitely there. And I can see him getting drafted as early as the middle of the second round. By 6 through 10 as far as the tight end list, with Eli Stowers, Jack Endries, Justin Jolie, Oscar Delp, and Sam Roush. Let's jump into the top 5. Just like Chase Roberts, this is my sleeper in this year's tight end class, Daquan Wright at 6'4", 245. He is an athletic freak. He reminds me of David Njoku in that regard, where he just it has the height, the weight, but he's also just more athletic than everybody on the field. Great speed to him. I think that goes without saying, but I think he does have a complete skill set where he is a top three blocker in this year's class. He's dominant in the run game as far as being an edge setter, but also as a receiving threat. As long as you can get the ball in his hands, again, he can make some things happen, and he can be that spark to an offense that is desperately needed. The only thing I worry about with Daquan Wright is the same thing that a lot of us fell into as far as a trap with Brevin Jordan years ago, where these are guys that didn't have elite production at the collegiate level, but because they checked all the boxes as far as intangibles and just being an athletic freak, he got drafted a lot higher than he should have, and of course his NFL career kind of fizzled out. So unless that is going to happen with Daquan Wright, I'm willing to take a shot on him. And that's why I think in round 3, round 4, round 5, 6, 7, you can draft this guy, and he could be a plug-and-play guy from day number 1, especially in a run-focused offense. So Daquan Wright is at number 5 on my tight end list. I know, I'm probably crazy for that take. At number 4, we have Max Clare, and simply, he might be the safest tight end in this year's class as he checks all the boxes. If you need a guy that is day 1 reliable, plug-and-play, but can also produce, Max Clare might be that guy. As again, he's a good route runner, smart in space. He has surprising athleticism to his game. I think he's a great athlete, good blocker. The only thing to worry about is the fact that he had a bit of a down year as far as him making the transfer to Ohio State. They were projected to be national champions, and he didn't really have this huge impact on an offense that probably could have used that extra element. Regardless, Max Clare is at number 4. Number 3 is my favorite tight end to watch just based on the tape in this year's class, which is Joe Royer at 6'5", 250. He is a back-to-back first-team all Big 12 player. I think he has elite speed, reliable hands, good route running ability. But I think what separates Joe Royer from a lot of tight ends in this class, maybe outside of the number 1 guy, is the fact that he was the focal point of an offense for back-to-back seasons there for the Bearcats. Again, as far as an athlete, he is my favorite to watch in this year's class, and I would be intrigued to see where he gets drafted. But at number 2, we have Michael Trigg at 6'4", 240. I will get this out of the way. He is maybe the best hands in the class, maybe up there with Justin Jolie. But his ability to create separation in the receiving game, the fact that he's coming off a career season with elite speed, good yak ability, he is an athletic freak. You want to get him on your offense. You only worry about his attitude issues, as in his past with Ole Miss, he had multiple suspensions. He quit on the team, had missed a deep playoff run, and he literally quit on Lane Kiffin and company. So that, of course, led to his transfer to Baylor, and then he had a career season. So are those things all behind him? Can these teams trigger him in these, meetings? Not that you want to do that to a player that you're gonna draft down the line, but can they test his buttons? See if, of course, he's fully put all of this messy situations behind him, because on field he's special, and that's why he's number 2 on my list today. I think he's top 100 on my big board. Michael Trigg is special, man, but can he get those attitude and off-field concerns behind him? If he can, if those are really, truly behind him, I really wouldn't be shocked if he's a second-round selection. But at number 1, if there was any questions, it's Kenyon Sadiq at 6'3", 245. He is he's a good to great athlete at everything, and he checks all the boxes. The only things you worry about is the occasional drop concerns where he has a big play, then Dante Moore would go back to him the next play, and then he would drop it. So just fixing up these small little things like drop concerns, maybe adding a little bit of weight to him so he could be a more quality blocker at the next level. But I do think he has great speed, man, great hands, versatility as all can be, especially if he can add a little bit of weight. So there's no doubt in my mind, Kenyon Sadiq is a top 25 player on my big board, and he is number 1 on the tight end list. So that leads us to the recap here, where this is the top 5. Of course, we just went through it. 6 through 10 will be on your screen in just a moment. But what I want to say is, of course, be on the lookout because we have the defensive line coming. Secondary will be on the way shortly after that, as well as all of the other positions. Of course, we have linebackers, offensive line, all of that good stuff on the way. But as always, if you made it to this point, consider dropping a like, subscribing to the channel. Happy Easter Sunday for those who celebrate.